we have been looking at orthonormal sets and the notion of the orthogonal complement of a given subspace. So, let us recollect some of the basic ideas. Suppose we have a set S in R k such that phi psi is equal to 0 if phi not equal to psi and 1 if phi equal to psi, where phi and psi are in S, then we say S is an orthonormal set. And then we had the notion of an orthonormal basis. So, a basis which is an orthonormal set is called an orthonormal basis. So, a basis for R k which is an orthonormal set is called an orthonormal basis. So, this is a very important notion that we have introduced, and using this orthonormal basis we showed that any vector can be expanded in terms of the orthonormal basis. So, if we have x in R k, the expansion becomes easy. The vector x can be written as j equal to 1 to k x phi j, where phi j is the orthonormal basis, j equal to 1 to k. Suppose we had an orthonormal basis, then any vector in R k can be expanded in terms of this phi j, and the coefficients in the expansion are nothing but the inner product of x with the vector phi j. Recall, x phi j is only another notation for phi j transpose x. Now, once we have this, from this we also have that the length of x squared is given by the sum of these x phi j square. Also, we have if x and y are in R k, then the inner product of x and y, or the dot product of x and y, just in terms of these coefficients is just x phi j comma y phi j. So, the expansion in terms of orthonormal sets is akin to the expansion with respect to the I j k vectors, which you might have learnt at an earlier class. Now, having got this orthonormal set, then we introduced the notion of a orthogonal complement for a subspace. Now, we observed first, if you have any orthonormal set in R k is either a basis for R k or it can be extended to an orthonormal basis for R k. We use this notion in analyzing what is known as the orthogonal complement of a subspace. So, then we introduce the notion which we looked last time, namely that W is a subspace of R k, then the orthogonal complement of W is defined as W perp, that is the notation for the orthogonal complement. It consists of all those vectors in R k which are perpendicular, which are orthogonal, that is the dot product is 0 for every vector in W. That is, these are vectors which are orthogonal to every one of the vectors in W. We observed in the last lecture the following facts. What are they? The first thing that we observed was that W perp is a subspace of RK. This is the first simple observation. The W perp is forced to be a subspace of RK. The second thing we observed was that if BW is a basis for W and BW perp is a basis for W perp. So, you have a basis for W and you have a basis for W perp, then if you put them together, let us call that B as BW union BW perp is a basis for the whole space. So, we can get a basis for the whole space by getting a basis for W and a basis for orthogonal complement. A consequence of 2 is the fact that the dimension of W plus dimension of W perp is equal to the dimension of RK, which is K. So, the dimension of a subspace plus the dimension of its orthogonal complement is always equal to the dimension of the whole space, because the number of vectors in the basis W is equal to the number of vectors in the basis W and the basis W perp. So, the dimension of W plus dimension of W perp is equal to the dimension of RK. Another special version of 2 is the fact that if you take an orthonormal basis for W. So, let us call it as OW, an orthonormal basis for W, and OW perp, an orthonormal basis for W perp, then putting them together we get an orthonormal basis for the whole space. Then O equal to OW union OW perp is an orthonormal basis for RK. So, therefore, you can put together basis for W and W perp to get a basis for the whole space. You can put together an orthonormal basis for W and an orthonormal basis for W perp to get an orthonormal basis for the whole space. We further observed using these facts that any vector x in RK can be decomposed as the sum of two vectors xw plus xw perp, where xw belongs to W and xw perp belongs to W perp, and this decomposition is unique in a unique way. So, what really matters here is that the basis can be split into two pairs, that is the basis for the whole space can be split into the basis for W and the basis for W perp. The orthogonal basis for the whole space can be split into an orthogonal basis for W and an orthogonal basis for W perp. This allows us to split a vector into two parts, one part coming from W and the other part coming from W perp. And we had the consequential Pythagoras theorem, which was that when we do such a splitting, the length of x squared will be the length of x w squared plus the length of x w perp square. The x w is what we call as the orthogonal projections of x onto W, and x w perp is called the orthogonal projection of x onto W perp. So, these are some of the important facts about orthonormal sets, orthonormal basis, the orthogonal complement and their basis, and the splitting that we have studied so far. Let us look at a simple example to illustrate all these facts. Let us consider R3 and consider the subspace W, which consists of all vectors of the form A, where A belongs to R. That is, it is the subspace consisting of all those vectors which have all components equal to each other. The first component is A, second component is A, and third component is A. So, it is the collection of all vectors which have all components equal to each other. Now, W is a subspace, we have seen this before, and if we take B W to be the simple vector 1 1 1, then this is a basis for W. It is easy to verify that this is a basis for W, because 1 1 1 has all components equal, and therefore, U 1 belongs to W, and any vector in W is just A times U 1, and therefore, a linear combination of U 1, and U 1 is linearly independent, and therefore, B W is a linearly independent set in W, which spans W, and hence it is a basis for W. Now, what do we get immediately out of this? The dimension of W is equal to 1. So, this is a basis for W, and the dimension of W is equal to 1, because there is only one vector in the basis. Now, what is W perp? We have already seen this in the previous lecture, and the W perp turns out to be the set of all vectors of the form alpha beta minus alpha minus beta, where alpha and beta are real numbers. It is the set of all those vectors whose sum of the components must be 0. The sum of the components must be 0, because it must be orthogonal to the basis vector of W, which says since all the components of the basis vectors are 1, the dot product will be the sum of the components. So, the sum of the components must be 0, and hence W perp is of this form. If it is of this form, we can easily see that B W perp consisting of these following vectors: W 1 equal to 1 0 minus 1, W 2 is equal to 0 1 minus 1. These two vectors are obtained as follows: by putting alpha equal to 1 and beta equal to 0, we get W 1. By putting alpha equal to 0 and beta equal to 1, we get W 2. Therefore, W 1 and W 2 are vectors in W. They are obviously linearly independent, and any vector in W perp is alpha times W 1 plus beta times W 2, and hence they span W perp. So, these two vectors are in W perp, they are linearly independent, they span W perp, and hence they form a basis for W perp. Now, we see that since the basis consists of two vectors, dimension of W perp is 2, and therefore, we immediately see that dimension of W plus dimension of W perp is equal to 1 plus 2, which is the dimension of the whole space. This is one of the properties which we looked at last time. This illustrates the fact that the dimension of a subspace plus the dimension of the orthogonal complement must always be equal to the dimension of the whole space. We also see that if we set B equal to B W union B W perp, we get the vectors U 1 equal to 1 1 1 comma W 1 equal to 1 0 minus 1 and W 2 equal to 0 1 minus 1. Now, it is very easy to see that these three vectors are linearly independent. So, these are linearly independent, I will just put easy to check. These are linearly independent vectors, but we are in the space R 3. In R 3, since the dimension is 3, any 3 linearly independent vectors will form a basis, and therefore, they form a basis. They form a basis for R 3, since any 3 linearly independent vectors in R 3 form a basis for R 3. So, this illustrates the fact that if you put together a basis for W and a basis for W perp, you will get a basis for W V, the whole space. So, if you put a basis for W and a basis for W perp together, you will always get a basis for the whole space, which is what gives the fact that the dimension of W plus dimension of W perp is the dimension of the whole space. Now, let us look at the orthonormal versions of this basis. Now, let us look at BW, which is a basis for W. Now, since there is only one vector, to get an orthonormal basis, all we have to do is normalize it to have length 1, and therefore, the orthonormal basis for W will be just dividing by the length, the U 1 divided by its length gives us OW. So, this is an orthonormal basis for W. Now, let us look at BW perp. May recall, we have got the W perp basis as W 1 and W 2. This is the basis for the W perp. Let us take these two bases, W 1, which is 1 0 minus 1, and W 2, which is 0 1 minus 1. Now, in order to extract an orthonormal basis out of it, we have to apply the Gram-Schmidt process. So, apply the Gram-Schmidt process, orthonormalization to BW perp. So, we apply the Gram-Schmidt orthonormalization to BW perp, the result will be we will get an orthonormal basis OW perp for W perp. How does the orthonormalization process go? First, we start with the first vector W 1 and call it as V 1, find its length squared, which is 2, and then consider the vector psi 1, which is obtained by dividing V 1 by its norm, which in this case is 1 by root 2 1 0 minus 1. So, that is our first vector in the orthonormal basis. In order to get the second vector, we start with the second vector, which is 0 1 minus 1. The second vector in the basis BW perp is W 2. We start with that vector and then we subtract the dot product of V 2 with V 1, divide by its length and multiply by V 1. This is what the first step of orthogonalization in the Gram-Schmidt process. What does this give us? 0 1 minus 1, dot product of V 2 and V 1 is 0 times 1 plus 1 times 0 plus minus 1 into minus 1, which is plus 1. So, V 2 V 1 is 1, norm V 1 squared is 2 into V 1, which is 1 0 minus 1, which gives me minus half 1 and minus half. Therefore, next we calculate norm V 2 squared, which is 1 by 2 into 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 4 1 and then 2 squared. Okay. So, the 1 by 2 squared has been pulled out. So, now if we divide V 2 by norm V 2, we get psi 2, which is the second vector in the orthonormal basis. So, we get OW perp to be psi 1, which is equal to 1 by root 2 into, we have signed psi 1 here, 1 by root 2 into 1 0 minus 1, 1 by root 2 into 1 0 minus 1, and then psi 2, which is 1 by root 6 into minus 1 to minus 1. So, thus we have the orthonormal basis for W perp. So, phi 1 was our orthonormal basis for, this is the orthonormal basis for W, and now we have the orthonormal basis for W perp. Now, if you put these two together, O equal to OW union OW perp, which gives me phi 1, psi 1 and psi 2, this is an orthonormal basis for R 3. So, it is easy to check they are orthonormal, and there are 3 vectors, and therefore, they will form an orthonormal basis. Thus, we see that if you put together an orthonormal basis for W and an orthonormal basis for W perp, you always end up with an orthonormal basis for the whole space. Now, let us take any vector x. We are now going to look at the splitting of the vector. We have now seen the splitting of the basis, we have seen the splitting of the orthonormal basis, and now we are going to look at the splitting of the x. The basis was split into the part in W and the part in W perp. The orthonormal basis was split into the orthonormal basis part of W and the orthonormal basis for W perp. Now, we are going to split the vector x into the part in W and the part in W perp. Let us look at that splitting. So, we have x, we can expand this in terms of this basis O. So, expand in terms of the orthonormal basis O for R 3. Now, how do I get the orthonormal basis? The expansion is, we know that whenever we have an orthonormal basis, the expansion is x comma phi 1 phi 1. The coefficient of the phi 1 vector is the dot product of x with phi 1. Similarly, the coefficient of the psi 1 vector is the dot product with psi 1, the coefficient of the psi 2 vector is the dot product with psi 2. So, now let us find each one of these numbers. So, let us call this as 1. What is x phi 1? X phi 1, we have phi 1 is this vector 1 by root 3 into 1 1 1. So, if I dot product x with that, I get x 1 plus x 2 plus x 3 by root 3. Next, what is x psi 1? We have psi 1 is this vector 1 by root 2 into 1 0 minus 1, and therefore, if we dot product with that, we will get x 1 minus x 3 by root 2. And what is x psi 2? Again, we dot product with that vector psi 2 1 by root 6 into minus 1 2 1. So, we get minus x 1 plus 2 x 2 minus x 3 by root 6. Now, if we substitute these values here, x phi 1, x psi 1, x psi 2, and we know what phi 1 is and what psi 1 is and what psi 2 is. So, therefore, the LHS of 1 becomes x phi 1, which is x 1 plus x 2 plus x 3 by root 3 into phi 1 1 1 1, then plus the x psi 1, which is x 1 minus x 3 by root 6 into 1 by root 6 into minus 1 2 minus 1, which is the x psi 2 psi 2. The last one is x psi 3 psi, I am sorry, x psi 2 psi 2. This will be 1 0 minus 1 and this will be 1 by root 2 1 by root 2. Okay. Then the last one is x psi 2 psi 2, which gives me the root 6, which is minus x 1 plus 2 x 2 minus x 3 by root 6 into 1 by root 6 into minus 1 2 minus 1. If we simplify this, this becomes, I will write this part separately and this part separately, because the first part here belongs to W and this part belongs to W perp, because psi 1 and psi 2 belong, this psi 1 and psi 2 belong to W perp, this linear combination will belong to W perp, and since this vector belongs to W, that part will belong to W. So, we will just write it as x 1 plus x 2 plus x 3 by 3, x 1 plus x 2 plus x 3 by 3, x 1 plus x 2 plus x 3 by 3, plus, if we now simplify the other part, you are going to obviously get 2 x 1 minus x 2 minus x 3 by 3 minus x 1 plus 2 x 2 minus x 3 by 3 and then minus x 1 minus x 2 plus 2 x 3 by 3, and when you add you get equal to x. So, thus we have the vector x has been split into two parts. This part is the x w and this part the x w perp. So, every vector x can be split into two parts, one part belong to the W space, the other part belonging to the orthogonal complement. For example, if x is equal to 1, 2, 3 is the vector in R3, then what is x w? The splitting. Now, the splitting simply takes the average of the three components and you get 1 plus 2 plus 3 by 3, which is 6 by 3, 6 by 3, 6 by 3, and the x w perp is just minus 1, 0, 1. If we add these two, you observe that this belongs to W, because all the components are equal. Recall, the space W consists of all the vectors whose all components are equal, and this belongs to W perp because it is orthogonal to all the vectors in W. So, thus we see that the vector x equal to 1, 2, 3 has been split into x w plus x w perp. Let us check the Pythagoras theorem for this. What is norm of x squared? Since the vector x is 1, 2, 3, the norm of x squared is 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared, which is 1 plus 4 plus 9, which is 14. On the other hand, norm of the length of x w squared, x w is the vector whose components are 2, 2 and 2. So, this length squared will be 2 squared plus 2 squared plus 2 squared, which is 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is equal to 12, and the length of x w perp squared is minus 1 squared plus 0 squared plus 1 squared, which is 1 plus 1, which is 2, and therefore, x w squared plus x w perp squared is equal to 12 plus 2, which is 14, which was the norm of x squared. This is the one that now verifies the Pythagoras theorem. So, we have therefore, suppose we have a subspace W in R k, then there is a subspace W perp which is orthogonal to it, and any vector x can be split into a portion here and a portion there. This is the x w and this is the x w perp and that is x. Any vector x can be split into two parts and that splitting is unique, and the basis can be split into a basis here and a basis there, and an orthogonal basis can be split into orthogonal basis, which simply means that in order to study the whole space, we can split the study into two parts, in the study of W and the study of W perp, because now every vector is split into two parts, every basis is split into two parts, every orthonormal basis is split into two parts. Therefore, the vector space is made up of these two pieces, the W and W perp. Knowing W and W perp, we can analyze the whole space. Now, given the vector space, which is the W that we choose in order to analyze, which subspace we will choose and whose orthogonal complement we will choose, so that the splitting is useful for us. And therefore, the splitting of the vector space in terms of a subspace and its orthogonal complement depends on the problem that we have in hand. Now, we shall focus mainly on the problems connected with matrices, and therefore, we shall look at matrices and the orthogonal complements and the subspaces and the orthogonal complements. In order to do that, let us first look one more simple property of orthogonal complements. So, let us look at one simple property of orthogonal complements. So, let us take R k and W a subspace of R k, say dimension of W is equal to R k, I am sorry, is equal to D. Let us say the dimension of W is equal to D. Then W perp is the orthogonal complement of W. Then we have seen that dimension of W plus dimension of W perp is the dimension of the whole space. So, the dimension of W perp must be the k minus D. Now, look at the subspace W perp. Let me call X as W perp. Now, X is a subspace dimension of X is k minus D. Now, since X is a subspace, we can talk about X perp. X perp orthogonal complement of X. Now, this is the set of all vectors x in R k such that x y is equal to 0 for every y in x, which is x is W perp. So, in other words, X perp is the set of all the vectors which are orthogonal to all the vectors in W perp. Clearly, x belongs to W implies x belongs to X perp, because every vector in W is orthogonal to every vector in W perp, and therefore, we have W is contained or equal to X perp. So, that is one thing we observe. Also, the dimension of X plus dimension of X perp, whenever you take a subspace and its orthogonal complement, the dimensions add up to the dimension of R k. So, this says dimension of W perp, because X is W perp, plus dimension of W perp perp. X is W perp. So, X perp perp is W perp perp is equal to double dimension of R k. We also have dimension of W perp plus dimension of W is equal to dimension of R k, because again the dimension of subspace plus its the dimension of its orthogonal complement will be equal to the dimension of the whole space. Now, compare these two, we find that the dimension of W is equal to the dimension of W perp. Now, W is contained in X perp. X perp is nothing but W perp. So, W is contained in W perp, but its dimension is the same as W perp. So, the two together says W equal to W perp. So, the second perp is the original space. This is akin to the fact that suppose I take a vector and I take a vector which is perpendicular to it, again I take the perpendicular to this, I get back to this original vector. Okay. So, this is x, this is x perp and this is x perp again. So, if we do a double perpendicular, you get back to the original one, and that is exactly what is being observed here in the general context. The W perp is equal to W. Now, as we mentioned that all these decompositions we will have to study with respect to a particular problem. Given the problem, what is the W we must choose, and therefore, the corresponding W perp, then split the problem into two parts by splitting the space, by splitting the basis, by splitting the orthonormal basis and by splitting the vectors. And therefore, a priori thing is what is the subspace that we should choose in order to splitting. And now, we will analyze this in the context of matrices. All the splitting has to be analyzed in the context of matrices. So, let us now consider A to be an m by n matrix. We have seen that with every matrix we can associate 4 important fundamental subspaces. The 4 fundamental subspaces. There are 2 subspaces of Rn and 2 subspaces of Rm. If A is an m by n matrix, there will be 2 subspaces of Rn. So, we have Rn on this side and we have Rm on this side, and A it takes n vectors to m vectors. Now, we are going to get 2 subspaces on the Rn side. The 2 subspaces that we had were the range of A transpose and the null space of A. The range of A transpose and the null space of A were subspaces of Rn, and similarly there were 2 subspaces on the Rm side. They were the range of A and the null space of A transpose. What are these subspaces? The null space of A is the set of all vectors in Rn which get mapped to the 0 vector under this transformation, and Ra transpose is the set of all vectors in Rn such that X is of the form A transpose B for B in Rm. It is the image of some vector. The range is, we consider a vector X, it is the image of some vector under the transformation A transpose. On the other hand, in the Rm side we have Na transpose, which is the set of all vectors in Rm such that A transpose X is equal to theta n, and Ra is the set of all vectors B in Rm such that B is equal to Ax for X in Rm. B is now the image of A. So, Ra transpose is the image of the function A transpose as a function from Rm to Rn. Ra is the image of the function A as a function from Rn to Rm. Now, let us look at the pair Na Ra transpose which is in Rn. Whatever we do, analogous results we will get on the Rm side. Now, therefore, we are going to look at the subspaces N A and R A transpose on the R n side. Now, suppose a vector x belongs to the null space of A. This can happen if and only if A x equal to theta m. This is what is meant by saying that x is the null space of A. That means, x get annulled by the matrix A. Now, if A x is the 0 vector, the only way something can be 0 vector is it is orthogonal to all the vectors. Since it is 0 vector on the R m side, it must be orthogonal to all the vectors on the R m side. That means, its dot product with all the vectors on the R m side must be 0. So, A x comma b must be equal to 0 for every b in R m. But what is the definition of the dot product? It is B transpose A x must be equal to 0 for every B in R m. This means, B transpose A x equal to 0 for every B in R m. Because matrix multiplication is associative, we can group them as we want. We can write this as A transpose B transpose x equal to 0 for every B in R m. So, what this says is x is orthogonal to all the vectors of the form A transpose B. So, x comma A transpose B is equal to 0 for every B in R m. That is, if x is orthogonal to all vectors of the form A transpose B, B belonging to R m. But if you now look at the definition of the range of A transpose, that is precisely the definition. The vectors in the range of A transpose are all vectors of the form A transpose B, and therefore, this means x is orthogonal to all vectors in range of A transpose, which means x belongs to range of A transpose perpendicular. Thus, we see that the null space of A is the same as range of A transpose perpendicular. Since the perp of the perp is itself, we get N A perp is R A transpose perp perp, which is equal to R A transpose. Analogous to this, on the other side, we get N A transpose is the range of A perp and N A transpose perp is the range of A. So, this is on the R n side and this is the R m side. Now, what does this mean? We have dimension of range of A transpose plus dimension of range of A transpose perp. Whenever we take a subspace and its orthogonal complement and we look at the dimensions and their sum, it must give me the dimension of the whole space. These are all subspaces in R n, therefore, the dimension of the whole space is n, that must be equal to n. Now, the dimension of range of A transpose is what we call as the rank of A transpose. R A transpose perpendicular is N A, and therefore, dimension of R A transpose perpendicular is dimension of N A. Dimension of N A is what we call as the nullity of A, and therefore, rank of A transpose plus nullity of A is equal to n. On the other hand, rank nullity theorem gives the rank of A plus nullity of A is equal to n. Now, compare these two, we get rank of A is equal to rank of A transpose, and therefore, we have an important conclusion that for any matrix over the real numbers, its rank is equal to the rank of its transpose. So, the matrix and this transpose have the same rank, and secondly the spaces are all orthogonal to each other. So, therefore, the structure is as follows. We have R n on the one side, R m on the other side. A takes these vectors n vectors to m vectors, A transpose takes m vectors to n vectors. On the R n side we have two subspaces, the range of A transpose and the null space of A, and they are orthogonal to each other. That is the thing we have found so far. On this side we have the null space of A transpose and the range of A, which is the, and these two are orthogonal to each other. So, we have 4 subspaces, 2 pairs, one pair in R n, and this pair is orthogonal complements of each other, another pair in R m, and this pair is also orthogonal complement of each other. So, therefore, we have 2 pairs of orthogonal complements of each other, and the main idea in analyzing a matrix is to get a suitable basis for R A transpose, a suitable basis for N A. Now, by our analysis we know that if we get a basis for these two orthogonal fellows, one being the orthogonal complement of the other, by putting them together we can get a basis for the whole space. So, therefore, finding a basis for R n is converted into the problem for a suitable basis for R A transpose and a suitable basis for N A, and we would even look for orthonormal basis. And similarly, we would look for orthonormal basis here and the orthonormal basis here. And notice that because the dimension of the range of A transpose equal to dimension of range of A, or the rank of A transpose is the rank of A, R A transpose and R A have the same dimension, which we will call as rho. Now, since rho A equal to rho A transpose, we will not put the suffix A and A transpose, we will simply call it as rho, the rank of the matrix, and the dimension here is also rho. The dimension here is the nullity of A, and the dimension here is the nullity of A transpose. So, therefore, the main analysis of the matrix will boil down to finding suitable orthonormal basis for these 4 pieces of subspaces, 2 subspaces on the R n side and 2 subspaces on the R m side, and it is this analysis of finding a suitable basis, a suitable orthonormal basis, which will occupy our attention for almost the rest of the course. So, therefore, we have to understand what is meant by a suitable basis, how to choose this orthonormal suitable basis, how you put all this information together to get the answers to all the questions that we raised about a matrix. Now, before we do that, let us also observe one fact. Suppose I have a R k and I have a subspace W and I have its orthogonal complement W perp. We said that if you take a vector x in the space, it can be split into 2 parts, x w and x w perp. Now, therefore, x belong to R k. So, we have W subspace of R k and W perp orthogonal complement. Then x belongs to R k implies x can be written as x w plus x w perp. Now, what is this role of this x w? What is the role of this x w? Suppose now we have this vector x and we do not have any information of W perp, and therefore, we would like to get as much information about x from W alone. What this means is, given x, find a vector which we will call as W x, W naught in W, such that if we now look at the, suppose I take W naught as the approximation for x, then the error is x minus W naught, and the quantification of the error squared is the length squared. So, this is the error by taking W naught as the approximation of x. Now, I want to find a W naught such that is the least error, that is, if you take any other W in W, the error must be more, x minus W naught must be giving the least error. So, in other words, can we approximate x in W with the least error? So, this is called the approximation problem. So, approximation problem is the following: R k, and then we have W subspace of R k, then given x in R k, find W naught in W such that if we take W naught as the approximation for x, the error, the length of the error squared is less than the error for any other vector in W. This is called the, actually we will call it the best approximation problem, because any other vector can do only a worse job, because the error will be more. Here we are trying to minimize the error. Now, we will see that the vector x naught, we do not even know that whether there is a solution for this problem. We shall see in the next lecture that the vector W naught, which gives this least error for x, is precisely x W, the orthogonal projection, of x onto W. You can visualize this as follows. Suppose we look at 2 dimensions and we have a subspace in 2 dimensions as a line through the origin, and then you take any vector x. Now, what is the orthogonal complement of W? It is that perpendicular line. So, that is W perp. Now, take any vector x. What is its splitting? This is the orthogonal projection, that is, draw the perpendiculars. This vector is x W and this vector is x W perp. Now, if you see, if you take any vector on the line W, its distance from x will be more than the perpendicular distance. This geometric fact is what we are trying to prove in that theorem. So, we find that the orthogonal projection x W perp, x W, the orthogonal projection of x onto W, gives the best approximation of x from W. So, this simple geometric fact is what we are going to approximate. And now, this fact will be used eventually when we are analyzing these matrices. Okay. Recall that when we had a vector b for which we could not find a solution, that will be because it will lie outside the range of A, then A x equal to B will not have a solution. Then what we will do is we will find the closest vector to B in R A, and that closest vector being in the range will have a solution, and that will generate the notion of the so called least square solutions. So, these are some of the ideas that will be utilized in analyzing the matrix problem. In the next lecture, we would look at in detail and get exactly this idea of this best approximation and show that these best approximations are given by this orthogonal projection. Then our main problem will be focused about finding the suitable basis for these 4 subspaces. We should analyze what sort of basis will make our work of answering the questions regarding the matrix, the fundamental questions. That work must become easier by the choice of our basis. We shall work a strategy towards that direction.